All right, good evening, everyone. Um, Sorry for the delay. Actually, um, had a little delay, but we're here now. So today we're supposed to talk about profitable pepper farming in Nigeria or any part of the world. Because currently, pepper production is um, at the level where it is globally. It's a very profitable business. And in the last live session we had, made us understand that when we're talking about farming, you mustn't be there in the farm to be part of the agricultural value chain. You could be in pepper farming, but in the other value chains that exist. So today we'll look at a few opportunities and how you could actually become profitable growing pepper. We have some people that are um, growing pepper for fun. It's a good thing, but then you could actually make a lot of money being part of the agricultural chain, agricultural value chain that agriculture, that's pepper itself provides. All right, so let's go straight into what we have. So first of all, I want us to understand that when we talk about pepper production, um, at the moment there is a global scarcity for it. In China, there's scarcity of there's a let me not use the word scarcity. Let me use the word need. In China, currently, there's a need for pepper. I'll still give some of these instances later on. In the US, there is need for pepper. In Africa, there's need for pepper. In fact, the other day I was checking Ghana. Ghana is actually the same way pepper is expensive in Nigeria, relatively expensive in Nigeria. It's the same thing happening in Ghana. It's the same thing happening in Cameroon. And the other day, one of my customers, was talking to me about the fact that Cameroon imported, or more like Cameroon exported bell pepper into Nigeria, and they were selling for a lower price than what we're offering the market. And I was amazed because probably they've studied the market and they've seen that Nigeria at the moment there's a big demand for pepper, and so some of those there are some people that go ahead of others. So I believe a few investors decided to farm bell pepper and export from Cameroon to Nigeria. I was really astonished. I was surprised, but then once you know that there's an opportunity here, you find a way to step in. And like I said earlier on, we don't have to farm pepper to be part of the profit that comes from it. The farmers are not even the one making the most of money in pepper production. They are not the ones making the most of the money. So this is why I keep encouraging us to pick up interest in the value chains in agriculture, because once you find out where you can key in, you begin to make money, right? So now, for pepper production, one of the things that makes it profitable, the very first thing that makes pepper production profitable is the kind of seed that is used. So in the shortest period of time I have with us here this evening, I'll be sharing some things that if you can implement, if you can add to what you know, you could make more. All right. So the type of seed you use will determine the amount you are getting from your production. Well, because the kind of seed you use determines your yield, and your yield determines your sales. Your sales determines your profit. So it goes on and on like that. So when you're selecting, if you're a farmer, when you're selecting the kind of seed you want to use, you ensure that such seed has high yield, you know, you don't want to spend all the money. Agriculture is quite capital intensive at every level, whether you are doing it at gardening level or at subsistence level or even at commercial level. Agriculture is expensive. In fact, at any level, you need knapsack. Knapsack now is not small money. Some years ago, as of 2021, if you want to buy knapsack, you could get knapsack for 7,000. You get knapsack for 8,000. But right now, if you don't have 20-something thousand, 30-something thousand, you cannot get a good knapsack. In fact, I don't even think there's any knapsack that's less than 20,000 right now. So even if you're a gardener, just what you need to spray your plants, just to spray low, is already 20,000. So it's capital intensive. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you are making, returns. You are making enough money out of it. So whether you are farming the pepper or not, you have to ensure that the seed you are working with is a good one. Because apart from high yield, we also have to talk about the quality. In the market out there, we have different grades of pepper. You have grade A, you have grade B, you have grade C, and the likes of it. So when you get to the market, these marketers have a way of differentiating the grades. So if your pepper, the grade your pepper has is maybe grade C, you're not making as much money as the person selling grade A pepper would sell. So even when you're a marketer, even when you are taking from farmers and selling to local market people, you must ensure that the seed the farm you are buying from, you have to verify that the farm you are buying from, the seed that they're making use of, the quality falls within the requirements of grade A, or at least grade B, because anything below grade B, that's from C downward, the amount of money you make from it begins to go down. And then you can actually fool them for the first time, but subsequent time you will not be able to fool them, because if you bring a quality of pepper for them, they taste it, they sell it to their customers, they get feedback. So if you're not giving them whatever grade you give them, when you are returning to resell, they assume it's the same pepper and they trade with you based on the quality of your pepper, right? So you have to ensure that the seed, if you're a marketer, you have to know what in fact, if you are dealing, even in livestock production, if you are buying day old, you can't just buy any kind of chick. You have to ensure that you know the quality of the chick you are buying, because it determines a lot. In fact, it determines everything, right? So you want to know the kind of seed that is being used, and you as a farmer, you have to ensure you're using the seed that has high yield and good quality. Now, when I mean good quality, I mean in the tastes, in the shelf life. You don't want to give people pepper and after 3 days the pepper begins to melt or it begins to spoil. Nobody wants to do business with you after such experience. So the quality has to be there, the high yield has to be there for you as a farmer, as a marketer, or as a distributor. You have to ensure that the quality of the pepper is top notch. All right. So that's one of the very things you need to know about profitability when it comes to pepper production. The seed you are using is important. Don't just say okay, you want to plant cucumber, and you just go to the market, okay, give me this one, and then you start planting. Or I want to plant habanero. So what kind of habanero do you have? They tell you this one, and then you are now differentiating from the price. Okay, this one is cheap. No. You need to know what you are planting. And when you are buying from farms, you need to know what they planted. You need to, verify what they did. All right, so very important. So, but I really want us to also clarify on the issue of GMO as regards to seeds, because there are narratives out there that makes you feel as though high yield seeds, qualitative seeds are GMOs. And the thing is, GMO, the concept of GMO is the awareness is being created in Africa at the moment, and um, it's okay, it's normal to have misconceptions. It's okay to have um, extreme views about it, because for everything that has an advantage, there's a disadvantage, right? So, but the thing is, when we come into modern farming, there are two kinds of seeds, or three kinds of seed that exist. You have the local seeds, you have the hybrid seeds, and you have the GMO. Now, the local seeds are the ones that are just, the way they are, the way they naturally occur, right? So, there's nothing is done on them. Let me use an example of something we can relate with, like your okra, for instance. Your local okra seeds grows tall, very tall, and then it's grown for 6 months. Your local okra. Any okra that you grow below 6 months is not local. It's not local, right? So naturally, okra in this part of the world takes long to grow. So when you get to pepper too, you have seeds like that. You have local seeds too that have that peculiarity. The way they naturally occur is the way they are. So now we also have the hybrid seeds. Now, this is hybrid seeds is what most farmers use, most modern farmers use in Nigeria. In fact, currently, even in the north, we have a lot of local, I don't mean modern farms, so I mean local farms, local farmers in villages. We have a lot of them using hybrid seeds at the moment. Now, I want you to understand that there's nothing wrong with hybrid seeds. Hybrid seeds are just products of natural science, right? In fact, the concept of hybrid seeds happens in nature on its own. The concept of hybrid seeds is you select two different local variety that you want to take traits from, you want to take qualities from. So you could have a habanero pepper, local pepper that is very hot, right? And then you have another habanero pepper that has, strong flavor. Now, the one that has strong flavor might not be very peppery. And then the one that is very peppery will not have strong flavor. When you buy local pepper from the market, you experience there's some pepper you buy that are very, very hot. There are some you buy that are not hot, but they taste good, right? That's how they naturally occur that way. So hybrid seeds, when hybrid seeds are produced, these two local varieties are, cross-pollinated, and then the traits of each of these local seeds are combined to give you the hybrid. That, in fact, if you understand the word hybrid, that is just the way it is. Merging two different species to form a new species. That is your hybrid. So now, some people will not complain. Okay, so why do you have to always buy the hybrid seed whenever you want to plant again? Why can't you extract the seed and reuse? And that perspective is not wrong, and it's not totally out of place. But then when you get on the science understanding of this, you know that it's impossible for you to get the same results over and over from hybrid seeds. Because remember that you are joining two different varieties to get one, right? It's like you marry two different people, right? The outcome they give you, when that outcome marries another person, those qualities that very child you gave birth to has, you might not get it in the second generation, right? So if you want to have a child that is tall and fair, the best way to get such result is to still cross the same kind of species again to give you that result, right? So there's no harm in hybrid seeds, but in your GMOs are worked in the lab, genetically modified to give you certain resistances. So for some GMO seeds, you will not need to spray pesticides, you will not need to spray fungicides because some part of the seeds have been mutilated, so they won't respond to certain things, So and then over time, you've had people talk about the side effects of the GMOs, but hybrid seeds are not like that. There are no side effects to hybrid seeds, right? Because I wanted to, I mentioned something earlier. Even nature does undergoes this hybridization, right? Because you see cross pollination happening. Pollen. What do they call this? Pollinators. You see pollinators take this very pollen grain to another stigma, and then you have a new a hybrid, fruit or seed. All right. So the high yield seeds I'm talking about has nothing to do with GMOs. The high quality seeds I'm talking about has nothing to do with GMOs. The hybrid is what I'm talking about. The high yield, the high quality are mostly hybrid seeds, right? So when you want to make money, I'm not encouraging you to use GMOs because GMOs is one of the easiest way of making a lot of money because they produce crazily. The advantages of growing GMOs is there, right, in terms of financial returns. But then we know of the health implications that comes with it. So if you want to make money out of pepper production, the first thing I said is to make sure that you are selling, you are planting, or you are making use of high quality seeds, high yield seeds, and then that can be a deal changer. That could change the trajectory of your experience, your agricultural experience in terms of pepper. All right. So the second thing that can make you profitable in pepper production is the understanding of markets. You can produce tons of pepper and still remain unprofitable. And this is why understanding the market is key. You have to understand your market. Now, before you produce, you need to know the demand of the market. You need to know the need you are satisfying. And then when you understand that, I'm talking to the farmers now. When you understand the need in the market, you produce what is needed the most. When you do this, the prices you place would favor you more. But when you are producing what is already in abundance, what is already in the market, what there's high competition on, you tend to struggle with prices. So for instance, if you're producing local pepper, then the competition, if you are in the east or in the southwest, the competition you face will be very fierce because we have very large producers of pepper in the north. So if you want to produce local pepper, you already have a saturated market to meet. So when you finish whatever you do in production and come to the market, you'll be very disappointed. One of the reasons why we stopped producing tomatoes was because the competition in tomatoes market is becoming something else, right? So if you want to produce tomato, you must find a way of doing it profitably. You must find hacks and secrets that will enable you make money. All right. So you have to understand what is in the market. You have to know what is scarce. and produce what is scarce. When you produce what is scarce, you tend to control the market. You tend to sell at good prices. But when you join in competition, you tend to, yeah, you'll be forced, you know, to get the beats you can get from the market. So the second thing that makes you profitable is market understanding. And then still under this market understanding, you need to also have a very robust market chain, because if you don't have a robust market chain, you produce and be unable to sell. Worst of all, even when you sell, you have to floor your price so that you can just sell off. So when you're going into pepper production, you must, before harvest, I won't tell you before you even start planting, because that would be like maybe discouraging you or something. Before harvest, you must go out there and look for market people, look for marketers, look for market women that are ready to buy your products. Otherwise, you will not have a smooth sale. So, and then under this too, you also must learn how to communicate with them before you harvest. You can't harvest and be calling customers. They must be aware that you are harvesting on a particular day, so that they can prepare, because you are not the only one bringing pepper in the market. So if someone else calls them before you bring your pepper, before you tell them they're already harvesting, and they buy from that person, you will not be under pressure to begin to look for, you'll be under pressure to begin to look for who you sell your pepper to. Good. All right. So you'll be struggling with the market because your communication is not good. So before you harvest, before you do any form of harvest, you have to ensure that the customers are aware. Market is key in profitability. Market is key. Your communication, your understanding of what they need, your understanding of where competition is, gives you the edge in the market. If you don't hold this and master this, you struggle in your sales. All right. So that's the second secret of being profitable in your pepper production. So thirdly, when you're producing pepper, you must ensure that your agronomic practice helps you to gain more out of what you're doing. There are some of us that our agronomic practice is very wasteful. So you get yield, but by the time you're calculating how much you spent and how much is coming in, the values are very similar, in the sense that the returns are not very much. So when you're going into pepper production as a farmer, this is for the farmers now, you have to ensure that you know what you're doing, and you found ways to cut down costs. Every 1,000 naira you save in production is an addition to your profits. Every cost you're able to cut in production, every cost you're able to cut in production, okay, every cost you're able to cut in production is a plus to you. So you have to ensure that the way you produce your crops, you are making this year I've been talking a lot about profit maximization, and one of the things I've discovered in profits, maximizing profits, is that you maximize profit the most the way you produce. If you want to make more money, your agronomic practice has to accommodate management. And then, don't get me wrong, there are some things that cannot be managed. There are some things that cannot be cut corners for. So when you are producing, there are certain practices that is a must. There are certain things you must buy. There are certain things you have to put in place. But then there are some others that you can always find a way around. Okay, so I'm not encouraging irresponsibility, because I see that as irresponsibility. When you want to go into production, you have to be ready. So I don't encourage irresponsibility, but there are ways you can actually do more with less. All right. So that being said, I want to finally talk about the opportunities in export. Now, when I started, I told us that there is a global need for pepper. Almost every major country in the world is in need of pepper, right? So there's a gap in the global market for the production, the supply, the distribution, the export of pepper. Somebody reached out to me from an Asian country earlier this year and made mention of a particular pepper that is in high demand in his country. When I went to search about that pepper, and I'd never heard that kind of pepper before in my life. I didn't even know something like that existed. And then when I saw the way they even produce, the way that pepper is being produced, I told myself, if I produce this kind of pepper, the amount of money I will sell it. And then, some of these produce, people are not even wanting that. People are not even really interested in the price. They just want it available, So there are a lot of opportunities out there in the export market. Just need to identify it and key into it. I'm going to share one with you for the sake of, this live session. So if you don't know, currently there's a huge demand for chili pepper globally, in the US, in China, in India, in Germany, in different parts of the world, in Italy. There is a global demand for chili pepper. There is this farmer in Ghana that is majored in chili pepper production and export. In fact, more than 70% of what he produces is exported. He has hectares of land of chili pepper. So, and then there are investors out there from some of these countries that are willing to partner with farmers for you to produce for them and export to them, right? So when you are able to key into this very opportunity, you make a lot of money, because chili pepper, the value of it is high at the moment globally. So when you produce, the market is there. The point I'm trying to make is the market is there. What is needed now are farmers or exporters, people that can aggregate this produce from farmers and export. So there's a global need for chili pepper. I've heard of some projects that are ongoing in Africa currently that people from Asia heavily invested in hectares, in tens of hectares. So you can actually look out for all those opportunities. And locally, chili pepper too, locally is in high demand. So even if you don't go into export, you can actually produce for local consumption. And the very good thing about chili pepper is that you can barely experience post-harvest loss when it comes to chili pepper. We that produce other kind of pepper, we're always running away from post-harvest losses. When we harvest, we're looking for fast ways of selling off. But chili pepper, you have nothing to worry about, because whether it is fresh or it is dry, it is still valuable. Chili pepper that is dry is not less valuable than the one that is fresh. So when you harvest and you're unable to sell off, you can just dry them, store them, and sell. In fact, most of the chili pepper that is exported out of Nigeria is in dry form. So there's a global need. There's a global need for pepper. So there are other kinds of pepper that also falls in this category. I just use chili pepper as an example. So we've talked about a few things today, about 4 different things. Talked about how to maximize profits by the kind of seed you use, the quality, and high yield capacity. That's the yielding capacity of the seed. We talked about agronomic practice. We talked about and market and sales, and then finally we talked about exports. So if you are into pepper production, these 4 areas, you can key into them, understand them, and add it to what you're doing. If you are new in the sector, these are the 4 things. There are many more, right? But for this very live session, these are the 4 that I can share with us at the moment. So if you are new to the industry, you have to be sure that these things must be in place when you are producing, or when you are into whatever value chain that you find yourself. All right. So I would like to give a few minutes to questions. If you have any question, I would like to take them now. Okay, I don't even know. Okay, I don't think there are any questions. So, but under this video, you can post your questions, and maybe later on, and I would answer as much as I can. So thank you for your time today. I apologize for coming on live later than was announced, but in the next 2 weeks, when we're talking about something else, we promise to do better and handle situations better. So I hope to see us try new things. I hope to see us implement these few things into our production and get the most out of it. Thank you for your time, and enjoy your weekend.